our stewardship response isn't just some isolated action or thing that we check off once a year, but it's an opportunity for us to recognize that no, Christ is killing something in our life when we make this response to that which is given to us, on the cross and through the entirety of Christ's life.
Last week, we ended by talking about the Great Commission that the Lord sent out the apostles. And this week, we want to particularly focus in on going kind of, in a sense, back to the beginning with the theme, which is my faith response. Right behind me here and Father, we have this beautiful picture painted by Fra Angelico of the Annunciation. And in a real way, Our Lady has to respond in faith to what she's being asked to do. Because St. Paul tells us that faith is belief in things unseen. And so she's being asked to be the mother of God, and she does not know what that looks like. From that moment on till the Lord ascends into heaven, she has no idea all of the things that she's going to go through. And so when you think of Our Lady's response, you go from the Annunciation, and then you go to the Visitation, and then you go to the birth of the Lord, and then you go to the Presentation. And that's the first time that we get some sense that everything's not going to be a bed of roses. Because St. Simeon says to her, "A sword will pierce your own heart, so that the thoughts of many may be made clear." And then you go fast forward to the public ministry, and she sees her own son rejected, and she sees him accepted, and she sees him persecuted, and she sees him chased from one thing to another because there's no room for him. Just like in the beginning, there was no place for him to lay his head. And then you get to the Passion, and she has to see him mocked and spit on and made to carry that cross. And then she's standing there at the foot of the cross. And at the foot of the cross, you have the three theological virtues are all present. You have, of course, the Lord with the greatest act of love known to the history of the world. And then you have his mother making a perfect act of faith and hope that even though it looks like when she looks at that cross that everything is done, that there's not, like everything they thought would happen is not going to happen, she makes an act of faith and hope on behalf of the whole church that all the promises Christ made while he was on earth would be fulfilled. And that all started at the Annunciation with a response in faith, not that everything would be wonderful, but that God has a plan and she was going to play her part in that plan.
This great mystery of God's love revealed, expressed, particularly, culminating that moment of the cross, it demands a response. I think back as a child and shouting my poor mother over the years, "Mom" or "Dad," and no matter what they're doing, there's always this moment where they respond. There's a response to this proposition, to this one who calls out for us in the midst of whatever it is that we're going through. And to me, we talk about time, talent, and treasure, and these are aspects of the stewardship way of life. But in some way, they're trying to put words to this response that is to Christ's proposition to us. Hopefully making that connection like we talked about with the Great Commission. It's all of our life, our entire heart, everything that we're attached to, our time, our resources, everything is, Christ has domain over our life, and that's not a thing that restricts us. That's a thing that gives us freedom. And that's expressed, that's exemplified in Mass. The gifts are brought forward, and these gifts are paid for by the donations from the parish, the tithes of the parish. It's provided by that, which is a sign of the work of our hands. The work of our hands is offered as an offering of our own life. And so our stewardship response isn't just some isolated action or thing that we check off once a year, but it's an opportunity for us to recognize that no, Christ is killing something in our life when we make this response to that which is given to us, on the cross and through the entirety of Christ's life. A beautiful opportunity for us to respond completely and with integrity of our whole existence, all that we have, all that we treasure, all that we desire, back to the Father, back to the Son, back to the Spirit who has given himself to us.
And again, looking at that picture, for Our Lady, it is a personal response. So this particularly applies for all of you who have families or husbands and wives. Like, you can't just say, honey, you fill that out, because it has to be a personal response for each member of the family. And even though there's a corporate aspect to it when you're a family, you still have to respond to what God has done in your life. Like, the gift of salvation is not something that just comes down in a big sort of something you can just pour out your portion. Like, it's specific to you. And so the response has to be specific too, which is why it's not something that you can relegate to one member of the family and who takes the lead, if you will. Well, maybe somebody has to open the thing, but we have to look to Our Lady as our example to having a personal, faith-filled response to the gift that we've been given.